Welcome to the Boston's Big Four podcast. Cast. New news about music and sports every week, sometimes.
We're back. A new episode of Boston's Big Podcast, and we have a very special guest with us. Shane Dillon is here. The extremely talented Shane Dillon. New album out now called A Star or a Lonely Dreamer.
Yes, sir.
Featuring a bunch of Boston artists, Massachusetts-based artists. You play the piano on the album. You write a lot of the music, most of the music.
Or did you write all of the music? Or
Pretty much, yeah. All the songs itself. There's a bunch of different rappers featured who obviously wrote their own verses, but like all the songs themselves and like the instrumental parts.
So you laid out the blueprint and then just brought some people on board to, kind of fill in the spaces. So, like I said before, you're like a more talented DJ Khaled.
Honored.
way more talented.
Way more talented. And way less obnoxious, too.
Let's hope.
But, welcome.
Appreciate it. Happy to be here. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
I've been seeing you guys on Instagram for so long and stuff, so
That's
it's
good.
nice to actually be here.
That is good. Thank you.
We've been seeing you, too, for a while. I mean, at least a couple years now. I was shocked to find out you're only 21, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if you want me giving your
It's all
age
good.
out like
Keep
that.
Cut it out.
I was shocked to find out how young you are because it feels like you've been in the game for a while. I've been seeing your name for a couple years. Like you said, you linked up with Red Shades and C4 maybe 2 or 3, 4 years ago.
Must have been like a couple of years. Like must have been like early like 2019 or so. So yeah, feels like a long time ago. But yeah, I guess only like 2 or 3 years ago. It's crazy because I feel like just like right now I feel like super connected to a ton of different people in the Boston music scene, but I feel like it's all like as of like the last 2 years or so. Like before that I feel like I really didn't know a ton of people. It just like kind of like I was fortunate enough to meet like the right people, which connected me with other people, and now we got an album out.
So like what was the event? Was there like an event where you felt like you finally got introduced to the right people, or was there like a person that opened that door for you?
It was.
Who can we shout out is what I'm asking. Yeah.
It was definitely fairly gradual, I'd say. I'd
Okay.
say it started back in 2019 or so. I remember in the spring that was actually when I had the idea to do this whole album, and that I had this idea that I wanted to do this project where I had a bunch of music I was writing with a bunch of features from different rappers and stuff like that. And it was crazy actually, because actually even when I started the album, which is finally out like as of last month, even back then I didn't even know a lot of the people that ended up being featured on it. A lot of them I actually met like during the process.
Oh, wow.
It's just like a ton of different areas, honestly. There's not like one common place I met people from. Some of it was from connecting at events. Some of it was from like my name got passed around from other artists and stuff that I've been lucky enough to work with. And yeah.
I think that is like one of the things that probably that's like attributed to consistency is key, where like if you were maybe trying like one avenue or like one venue, you kept trying to go to it like, hey, can I perform here? But you're finding all these other people, you're finding the other like-minded musicians, and just sort of grows the network in a way that like it wasn't one person who opened the door or anything. Yes, that makes a lot more sense, that it's sort of pieced together over time, and and as the buzz got generated, people your name kept bouncing around, and now people know who you are, and you're officially part of the scene.
I've
it's
tried,
interesting how that happens.
No, for sure, yeah. I mean, like, it's still honestly like, even as someone like I feel like super like I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of people that like are amazing, like they inspire me, but it still feels weird in a way that like I'm actually feel like part of the scene. I feel like I finally kind of like got there.
Yeah, no, you definitely have.
For
I
sure.
mean, the names that you're working with, I remember when I saw the track list come out, I was like, wow. I was like, this is going to be good, because we follow the hip-hop scene closely.
For
and,
sure, yeah.
A lot of the singers on there I hadn't heard of before, but they all sound incredible.
Appreciate it, yeah. No,
so
really
you were
good
obviously
at that,
able to get some, you've obviously made some good connections in the music industry.
Definitely tried, yeah, thanks.
So when did you start incorporating rappers into your music? Like, when did you first start connecting with rappers and kind of getting into the hip hop stuff?
I mean, growing up, I'd always liked hip hop and listened to it. Like, I kind of started as a kid, like playing piano lessons. I've been playing pretty much my whole life. That's kind of where everything came from.
Right.
I started when I was younger. I was playing a lot of like jazz and a lot of like instrumental music and stuff like that. But like it's interesting because I feel like the bridge between like instrumental music and hip hop or R&B or whatever it is like, especially these days, I feel like there's a ton of connections between them, both in terms of the music itself and like people that are like doing music and kind of like both situations. And so yeah, like I think like it kind of dawned on me at one moment this was just like something like I could do, like it was a real possibility that I could kind of take what I was doing and bring all these other people into it as part of it. Yep. But then like I think kind of like the execution was just kind of like a whole separate part of it where I just like I kind of went and did it. And the crazy part is that I still feel like when I started I really didn't know what the fuck I was doing for a lot, like in a big sense.
Yeah.
But it kind of just like I think I just kind of what I'm proud of is that I just really kind of had my vision. I kind of stuck with it and then just kind of figured out all the details like kind of along the way.
Right. I feel like not knowing kind of helps it have that organic feel. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like kind of just going through the process instead of laying everything out and saying this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of just let it happen. You make connections along the way. You say, oh, this person would sound good on this. This person would sound good on this. And
it definitely
go with the vibe. You just go with the vibe.
No doubt.
You definitely, I had said this to you off mic, you curated that album for sure because when I saw the different artists on it, I was under the impression that maybe they would bring their own flavor, their own style, but I was listening to all these songs and they had a coherent sound that all went together the right way, and I was like, is it really possible that all these artists heard the basis of the song and it all happened to work so well together? But it made sense when you told me that you really composed the whole thing and the idea came together.
I really appreciate you saying that, honestly, because like with the album having taken so long, that was one of the things that I was really like focused on is like despite having like a million different people featured on it, something I really wanted was to feel like one like cohesive album that you could listen to from start to finish and it would feel like kind of like one body of work, not like a mixtape from a bunch of different people.
Right.
Yeah.
So all that spoken word poetry was not, you didn't write that.
No, so what I wrote was all the instrumental parts, like everything, like the band and everything is playing, and then all the parts that are being sung by the different singers and stuff. I wrote. All the different rappers obviously did their own shit, and the different like poets and stuff.
Interesting. Because, I felt like, because there's more than one. You have a couple interludes with spoken word.
Amanda Shea's on there.
Yeah, I had Amanda Shea. I was fortunate enough. And then the other one, actually, it's like the second to last track. It's called Moon Girl. It's actually my younger sister.
Yeah, that one really spoke to me too. Yeah, it's good. It's awesome to have that because alongside the instrumental, you're like, it's like you're floating inside a person's mind as they're like describing something to you, with that like airy musicality, but they're like telling you something, so it's visualizing, but you don't feel like you're the way the music is. You don't feel like you're really there. You're like watching it, so it's it's such an interesting feeling to have, like when you're in those. So I appreciate that you took the time to do that, just to be able to make something like that, because a lot of people these days the focus is on hits. We're looking at hits and singles.
For sure, yeah. No, I appreciate you saying that because like I think something like even like as a kid, like I always used to love like kind of like the album as an art form of itself, where it's like kind of like one like it takes you through like a journey of like different emotions.
People don't even listen to albums in order anymore.
Yeah, I know.
I'm,
it's such a shame,
super
honestly.
guilty of it. I listen to like
people shuffle albums and it bothers me.
Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah, that like plus I think like kind of like as you were talking about too, like kind of like the storytelling aspect of it is also something that's been super important to me. Is like I think like even growing up, that was always my favorite music and stuff, where I felt like the artist or producer, whoever it was, like was able to like put something that like told like a narrative kind of about like something in their life or just a story in general. And so that's something I always kind of tried to do.
Yeah. That is, I mean, I always loved the storytelling. And actually, did you have, so when you composed everything and you had that like cohesive sound in mind, like you wanted it all to kind of mesh together, did any of that come from an original story? Did you give these artists like a topic or something to go off of, or was it like this is the sound and you can write your verse to it?
Kind of in like a broad sense, I would say, because basically what I did was to start like for the process to write each song, what I did is first like I would write like the little chorus that each of the different singers would perform. Okay. And with that, I mean like they're like fairly short, like maybe it's like 16 bars or whatever it is, and it like repeats a few times. And what I try to do with that is give it like enough of like kind of like an emotional context that it's like about something that they kind of have to go off of it, while still being like kind of like broad enough that they can kind of like bring their own personality into it. Because I definitely want to give them space. I mean, obviously having all these different artists who each had their own unique style and sound and different like kind of sounds and things that they're drawn to, give them space to kind of be themselves and like still be recognizable as themselves while kind of being in the midst of this project, which is like my work.
Yeah. That has got to be interesting too. Like you are the master of the work because it's your project, but you have other artists involved. So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we had talked about this.
It's kind of like you're the coach and they're they're your roster and you're kind of letting them use their own
They really
skills.
did their
You
thing,
put
though,
them,
yeah.
you put them in a place to succeed. Like,
Exactly.
that's what good coaches do.
Yeah.
This was similar to like the painter with the palette kind of analogy. Like all the different artists are like your color palette, and you're the painter, like creating that painting. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
like all the same. It's you're orchestrating.
For sure, yeah. No, I definitely
these
got to give it
people,
up to all
yeah.
the people that were part of it, though. Like, really, I
Yes.
have a lot of humility to having them each be
Mm.
part of it. Like, such, like, it's really, like, amazing to me, honestly, that I was, like, even just thinking back, like, that I was able to get Red Shades and C4 and Kofi Lost
Amazing.
and Tayshawn Taylor, like, to really be part of my album.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And Tayshawn Taylor, like, you haven't heard much from him like the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Like I get excited anytime I see anything with his
For
name
sure,
on it.
yeah,
'Cause
no,
I'm like,
definitely.
You know, it's been rare the last couple of years to get a release from him. So I was pumped when I saw him on there.
Hell yeah. No, yeah. I feel like he, honestly, is, like, a poet in and of himself.
Absolutely,
So,
he's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah, Coffee Lost too.
Yeah,
Kofi.
Kofi,
Is it Kofi
yeah.
Lost? Okay. Yeah, he's dope. Red Shade C4, obviously, and like I said, you introduced me to a lot of people I hadn't heard before,
Oh,
so,
word.
which is
Yeah.
awesome. Jolie Gordon.
She's
voice.
amazing.
Yeah.
She did her thing. Both fun. She's on 2 songs on the album and then, like, the video, too, that we did.
Yeah.
She was probably my favorite of the artists, except for you.
Word.
Who was your favorite of the artists?
You can't do
That's
that.
a good. I don't even know if I could answer that.
You're not allowed. You're not allowed.
Who's your
to answer
least
that.
favorite? Who disappointed you the most?
Yeah,
It's
did,
funny.
did anyone get scrapped?
Soldier Boy.
Soldier Boy was the
Soldier
first
Boy's
one.
verse did not make the album.
He was the first verse, so it makes sense. The project took
Yeah.
on a different life, so it ended up
After he
not
got
working.
cut.
Yeah.
It's funny because a few people have asked me, like, if I have, like, a favorite song or anything like that. For a while, like, I felt like my
That's
favorite.
like asking someone their favorite child.
Yeah.
They have
In a
one.
way, it was.
They
yeah.
have one, you know it. Don't
They'll
lie.
never say it though.
For a while, I felt like it was like whichever song I was working on at the moment was my favorite one, and then sometimes I felt like whichever one I was working was my least favorite one. So it was definitely like.
What's your favorite one to perform?
That's a good question. I think they all definitely have a very special place in my heart, but I think having Around Me with having Red Shades and C4 on it,
Yes, that's a lot of energy.
it
on
was
stage.
really
C4
powerful,
is an
yeah.
incredible performer.
Yeah, for sure.
Red Shades too.
No doubt, yeah. And it was crazy because, like, right before the album came out, a couple weeks before, we did, like, a little album preview show where I was
Yeah.
fortunate enough to be able to get, like, almost all of the artists, like, into the same room to perform.
That is awesome.
And because I remember, like, way back when I started having the idea of the project, I was like, wow, this would be insane to actually get all these fucking
Yeah.
people into the same room and actually, like, perform
And
this.
you brought that vision to
And
life.
it actually
That's
happened. Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Appreciate it.
That's incredible. So I also saw you performing recently, playing the keys with CD Rose.
That's right. Yeah.
So are there like a lot of artists that you perform with that you're kind of their go-to guy, or you're part of their band?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I've been fortunate enough, like, both, like, a bunch of people on the album and a bunch of other people have been just, like, yeah, like CD, as you mentioned, I've played a lot of Miranda Ray
Yeah.
with Notebook P. I've done a few shows with, and then a bunch of people on the album, too, like C4, I've played with a million times. Yeah, it's cool because I think something that I like to do about with my music is, like, to balance things where it's, like, my music, my project, and then also, like, being part of, like, other people's vision, other people's production, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think
That's awesome. Like, I think you've become like a recognizable face, like in the music scene. And typically when you go to shows like that, like you go for, I go to see everything, the whole production, but the person you recognize is the singer, and then everyone else is kind of
Yeah.
like, in the background. But I feel like you've put yourself in a position where people go to shows and they're like, oh my God, it's Shane Dillon. Like they know who the guy playing the piano is, which is pretty cool.
For sure.
That's pretty cool that you've been able to like build your brand that way.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think it's like a lot of people might think like the idea of like an artist extends only like to the vocalist. It's like at the front, like leading the band or whatever it is.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of space, like even as like an instrumentalist, producer, whatever, just to kind of like do your thing and like kind of from like the opposite angle in a way, where you're like kind of like using like the vocalist that you like have or you're like able
Right.
to work with, kind of like
the same
to
way
like be
that
part
the
of your
vocalists
sound.
use
The same.
the instruments.
Exactly.
It's just like you're doing it the opposite way, but it's way more uncommon for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, yeah.
Because I don't know, why is that uncommon? It's because people just love that beautiful voice. People just love singers. I don't know.
I think a lot of it is look. I mean, Justin said that if he was 6 foot, IOU would have been gold or platinum.
You think height has something to do with it? I don't know.
He said that. I don't know.
I don't believe him when he says that because Bruno Mars is like 5'3" and like.
Is he really?
Yeah.
But yeah,
so.
see, you wouldn't know because
You
we got
wouldn't know.
amazing illusions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing
I actually
illusions.
never knew that.
He's super short.
If
yeah.
you got the face, if you got a 6 foot face, then that's all that matters.
Russ is like 5'5" or something.
Yeah, he's got like a 6'8" face. That's Russ. So
Dude.
that's why.
How do I get a 6'8" face?
You have like a 7'2" face, dude.
What are you talking about? I don't know what this means.
Sound off in the comments if Jack's face is 7'4" at least. We're
I think
talking in
growing your
heights.
hair long is the key.
No, I mean it really happens because like remember we were talking about this with this is like a little bit of a tangent. Vin Diesel, I feel like is actually 4 feet tall, but
He's short. He's short, right?
he claims to be 6 feet. There's
No.
no way, Vin. There's no way. I want it to be, but he's got a 6'5" head. You know, that's what it is.
Yeah. He looks
So I
like
believe it
yeah.
like on camera, but then you're like at that award show. I don't know,
I don't know.
but. Damn, why did we do this? Why do we go, singer versus band? Why
Yeah,
do
yeah.
people care about the vocalist?
Yeah, because I'm saying like he's made it like so he's almost at the forefront now. When people go to shows, they're gonna recognize the guy on the piano.
Yeah,
Which, like,
whoever's up
that's-
front. Yeah.
That's not common, typically.
So you've got like an 8 foot face. That's what it is, dude.
Jesus
Even though
Christ.
he's sitting down the whole time,
That's what it is. It's the illusion.
it's the illusion. Nobody knows how tall he is. Nobody knows his age.
Yeah. Absolute secret.
I feel like that's such an important part of like art though in a way. Like something that people don't talk enough about is like the image and
Oh,
like
absolutely.
so much of that to me is like something that you like choose to create. Is like
Yeah.
I mean obviously it's like tied to like things about yourself and that you choose to like kind of bring out or enhance in a way
Yeah.
or whatever. But at the end of the day, like really what people when they like experience music or art or whatever it is, they want kind of like an image that they can remember. And
Absolutely.
like so I don't know, I feel like all the pieces of the puzzle, like whether it's like the vocalist as you mentioned or a performance or like an album or something like that, it's really just about like giving them something that they can remember and like will want more of.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think this happens. Like, there's so many people will call like the lead singer the band name, like like
Yeah.
something like that. Which actually just happened to me. Do you know Gatch?
I
Gatch
don't think
Tunes.
so.
Shout out Gatch. They're a band out there. So this is the thing. There is a lead singer who everyone calls Gatch, but the
Yeah.
whole band is Gatch. So I was
I
asking.
see.
I was asking the members afterwards, I was like, are you all Gatch or is he Gatch? And they were like, Gatch is an idea. And I was like,
Gatch
oh,
is an
man,
idea.
I'm
Sounds
all
wholesome.
confused now.
So would you consider yourself a band, a one-man band, in a way? Because you do more than one thing.
Yeah, I think something about my music is like both with the different vocalists, but also like with the people playing the band. I don't have like one. I mean, there are people I play with frequently, but there's not
Yeah.
like it's not the same lineup of people like musicians playing with me as well. Like I try to like mix it up.
That's got to be hard to do, too, with scheduling and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
everyone's
no,
available
tell me
every
about it.
weekend
Yeah,
or
no,
whatever.
tell me
So.
about it, yeah. Working with musicians, it's a blessing and a curse, as you could say.
Mm.
But yeah, something I try to do is I like kind of, I guess you could say it's kind of like kind of having the image of like kind of what you want the vision to be and like bringing in the necessary like people to kind of like be part of that image in a way.
Yeah.
Because there are certainly different like vocalists or different band members I might say like, okay, like this is the right gig for you to be on or whatever, or
Mhm.
like, and or like a situation where I wouldn't necessarily call like a different person I play with this other setting or whatever, things like that. But I definitely like to think about like my music both in terms of people and in terms of like just like all the pieces of the puzzle as like kind of like pieces of the puzzle, where it's like you have like everyone is like kind of contributing something to the whole, and at the end it becomes like bigger than all of us.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about, is making it bigger, creating that surreal feeling
Yeah.
that the music can give. Like, we've all felt that from music, like something we're like, where am I? What is this? Like, not like a where am I in a disoriented way, but like a what feeling did this just like bring me right into? Like, something about, and you can tell when it wasn't just a one-to-one recording. Like, this was composed by layers of people, and this was really crafted. So yeah, I do love that. And so I did want to ask, I feel like I can hear a lot of like, and you mentioned that you have blues and jazz influence in the creation of your music.
For
So,
sure. Yeah.
I wanted to ask like who your other influences are artist wise, but I want to guess one
Let's hear
or
it.
two.
For sure.
Beethoven.
I was getting I was guessing. So like I was getting like some Doors vibes on
Interesting.
in like the beginning of the album, and I also at certain points was like, and this is probably just like the blues jazz parts of it, but I thought I was getting like some like Led Zeppelin-y vibes. So
Interesting. I see. I don't think I've ever actually gotten the Doors as like
really?
this, but that's actually like, yeah. I feel like for me, like growing up, like it was definitely like jazz was like a kind of a big part of like kind of what I was doing musically. And then I feel like something that I've tried to do with this album in particular is like, it's not just as simple as it's like kind of I'm taking this jazz influence into hip hop. I feel like it's kind of like I'm trying to like kind of be true to like each element that's kind of part of it. Whereas like with the band, there are like moments where they're like getting their moment to shine too as well. And it's kind of like, I really feel like it's kind of what I try to do is like kind of like connect and bring together like kind of different like styles or communities or whatever it is.
yeah.
In a way where it's like, some of the people that are like listening to my album might never have heard like any sort of like instrumental jazz or anything like that before, and then some on the other side too, like some people that are like kind of like more jazz heads might not have ever heard like or known that they're like rappers in Boston, they're doing stuff like this. And so something I've tried to do is like kind of like be true to every part of it that's kind of brought into it, where it's something that's like, and like really is like the whole is bigger than the sum of the parts and stuff like that.
And that probably requires you to become an expert in all these different areas of music and not like just your level of expertise.
To some extent, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's not a lot of people like really bringing. Like I said, I don't know of anyone doing what you're doing exactly, like a piano player bringing all these people together and you know writing all these songs, and there's not a lot of people bringing genres together like that. I mean, you see it once in a while. You'll see a rock artist collab with a rap artist, but on an entire album like that, to have it just a fusion of different styles is pretty unique, I think. So, kudos to you.
Appreciate that, yeah. I feel like it's like, at the end of the day, it's like everyone has like their own unique set of influences. This is just like by whatever chance, whatever situation that I was brought into. Like this is like things that I happen to know about. And I just feel like I just like had this idea of like kind of what I was trying to say musically, and I was like why the hell not? Like just like kind of like actually try to like actually like make it happen.
So at what point did you decide to try to put an album together?
It's funny because when I started this project, it took like 2 years, as I mentioned. But when I started, I definitely didn't think it was going to take anywhere near that long.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I started everything with this album that just came out back in like summer of 2019, so about 2 years ago or so. And yeah, I started like, originally I was thinking it would be like kind of like my intro into kind of working with some different rappers in Boston, stuff like that, because that was kind of around the time that I kind of like started like collaborating, like meeting people and stuff like that.
Right.
And yeah, I just started it, and I was like, I don't know, something about it was like it really like drew me in. It was like, this is something that's like worth investing time into, like just to like get it out. And it was the type of thing, was like, once I started doing a few things, it was like, okay, I could do this and this and this. Maybe I could bring this person into it. Maybe I could like write some more songs, bring some more band members in, stuff like that, like make it a full album. And then it took 2 years, but we finally made it.
It was worth it. It was worth the wait. So obviously you realized like that you were in a position where you could just kind of pull the strings, and like you would put yourself in a position where you know, and met so many people where it's like, okay, I can really create something here. And I'm guessing like it took that long to make, probably because you didn't even realize at first what you were capable of.
In a way, yeah. And it was kind of like, it was funny because obviously there was like a global pandemic in the middle.
Exactly. I was going to ask too how that affected the process.
It was funny because like in like spring of 2020, like when everything like went crazy, we were at a spot in the album where it was like there had been enough done that I felt like there was still momentum to kind of like, obviously it was a long way to go, but there had been enough done that I felt like it was still momentum to like kind of like take forward and like pursue. And I was fortunate enough to be like, I mean, I had like a little bit of extra time like around like that time when everything when the world was shut down, so I was really able to like kind of like lock in and like kind of like devote a lot of energy that I needed to like getting each song done.
So you think the pandemic helped the process?
I think it's hard to say because it like I feel like it would have been totally different if
it's
not
so
for
different,
it.
yeah.
But I think like kind of being forced to take my time with it because of that was a good thing in the end. And so in a weird way, like maybe yes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I did want to know, like, on the production side of things. So you tied all this together, and you said you had the time to lock in on this during quarantine, which, again, kudos to you, because I wasted plenty of time during quarantine, and I thought that I was productive too, plenty, but also I probably could have been more.
I definitely
That's
wasted
all.
my fair share of time as
I
well.
think we all did.
Yeah, which, I mean, you have to. We were all
But
stressing.
it's not wasted time all the time. Sometimes it's good to do nothing.
No, yeah,
you know?
rest
That's
days
very
important.
true, yeah.
You know?
I have
It's
a quote a friend told me is like with how it pertains to like writing, but like someone said like you're doing as much writing as you should at any moment, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's like kind of like a life philosophy in
Yeah.
a way
You
for
can't
me.
force it.
Yeah,
That's
no,
smart.
for sure. Because especially like as an artist too, like there's times where like to really like get your ideas out, it takes time of just like kind of doing nothing and like kind of like sitting and reflecting both on like experiences in life and stuff like that,
Absolutely.
just to like actually have something to say. Because sometimes it's like you're like the inspiration's just empty, and you just kind
Right.
of need to take
I
some
think
time.
the,
to,
the art
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
better if you actually take the time to like be in your thoughts instead of just fucking going all the time.
Absolutely,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's like, yeah, you lose some of the inspiration after a while because you're just in this hamster wheel. Like there's nothing to be
Exactly.
inspired about. You're
for
just
sure, yeah,
laser
yeah.
focus.
Sorry, so just to cap off the thought, I was going to ask, when do you, like, are you working in the DAW yourself? Like, are you actually doing the mixing and mastering on the post-production side as well?
I had a separate dude that actually like mixed everything for me. This guy from Berkeley, his name's Ryan Renteria. Kudos to him. He really
Shout out Ryan Renteria.
he really killed that shit, honestly. It was like
He did.
the number of like text messages and emails that went back and forth between the two of us, you'd be amazed, honestly.
Communication's
but-
key.
So how often were you, like, in the room together? Were you guys listening together? Or
Actually, for the most part, we were not usually in the same room. But basically what was happening is like it was kind of like my project where I would have like all the different pieces and I would kind of assemble them on my own. And kind of when each thing was done, I would like send stuff off to him, and then we'd go back and forth a million times, like to get like each mixed version is like as good as it could be.
Okay. Do you compose, like, in the DAW, or do you just, like, play out in the air, and then when it's time, like, you do your recording?
I
guess that
definitely
makes sense.
think, yeah. No, I think like I kind of like grew up and like kind of came up as a piano player, and I feel like that's like still like kind of, despite doing all these different things, that's kind of like how I center myself in a way. And like I feel like for me, like all my ideas always like start when I'm just like sitting down at the piano. That's a
Okay.
place where I really feel comfortable and I can like get everything out that I'm trying to think. And then like I kind of transitioned from that to like from like having like ideas or like these melody ideas and stuff like that to like kind of like how it will be like kind of produced as like kind of like a bigger type of thing, both in terms of like what sounds will be part of it, what people will be part of it, different like features and stuff like that, especially with this album.
Okay.
But for me, it all definitely starts at the piano. Yeah,
Nice.
You've
Yeah,
been playing piano how long, you said?
pretty much my whole life. I
Whole
can't even
life?
put like a time on it. Yeah,
How old were you the first time you got on a stage?
must have been like as a kid, like at like some piano recital
Okay,
or
so
something.
you're
yeah.
well-versed.
Yeah.
Is are your family musicians?
They're actually not actually. They were
Really?
always like, my dad is like, especially he's like a big appreciator of music. He has like a big record collection, stuff like that. So they always encouraged me like since I was really young to kind of keep going with it, which I'm very blessed, obviously.
That's
But,
awesome.
yeah, but I'm actually the only musician in my family. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
And you can read, right? You can you sight read music
Mhm.
like that? I feel like pianists are the best at that, right?
Yeah. You could say that, honestly. I feel like a lot of like the people that like compose music in the world like play the piano.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's a superpower because, like, my dad plays piano like that. Like, he
yeah.
can sit, like, we'll just open a book, there's sheet music, and he's playing it in time, the right notes. Maybe needs to practice it once or twice,
Yeah.
but, like,
Crazy.
can play
Yeah.
it, you know? And I was like, wow. And he tried to teach us that when we were younger, and I'm annoying and impatient, so I didn't do it.
I was
so-
impatient with piano lessons when I was younger, too. I wish I was more patient with it. But I
Yeah.
eventually was like, Mom, I don't want to do this
It
anymore.
takes a lot of patience, and like I'd be lying if I wasn't saying like my parents definitely had to like force me to practice sometimes as
Yeah.
a kid. Like I remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Interesting. So what age did you decide, like, no one needs to tell me to practice. People are probably telling me to stop, and I gotta come up to dinner or like something.
Right.
You know, like when did that sort of start?
It was fairly young, I think. It was probably like by the time I was like in middle school. Actually, I kind of think like I had like this vague inkling in my mind. It's like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to be a musician.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put in like all the time it takes to do it and whatever.
Love it.
Which is funny to think, because I mean, like obviously as a kid, you don't know what the fuck's going on. You don't know what you're doing or anything. But like
you had a passion though.
I think at the very least, I can say I had kind of like a seed that I was gonna follow and like kind of like see where it took me. And,
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I enjoyed playing the piano by myself. I just hated the lessons.
Yeah,
You know?
like it's the grind. I mean, everyone wants to be up there playing.
I just want to do it on my own.
Yeah. It would be nice to just be able to translate what you're doing in your mind to like right into the piano. Would be the cool. I mean, you can probably do that, but
I mean that's kind of like the ultimate goal. I feel like is like that's what I like. I feel like most like proud of, like in terms of my piano playing, is like I can like take my ideas and like kind of like speak them through the instrument, which is like, I mean, like.
Do you do piano lessons?
I actually don't do a lot of teaching. I think it's funny.
Okay.
I don't think I'm a very good teacher actually.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. Leave a Yelp review under this video if you've had lessons from him. If you haven't,
We have a very
leave one.
poorly tuned piano here. If you want to give us some
hell
lessons.
Yeah, we only learned that until someone with a real ear came in and told us that it was untuned.
I mean, we assumed it was
No.
probably pretty bad.
I'm just kidding. You got a great ear, bro. You got a great ear.
Well, thank you.
Sometimes I feel like pianos like that have the most character.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is anything really in tune?
Yeah.
I'm sure something
Nothing's
is.
perfect. Nothing's perfect.
Just a concept.
Yeah. So do you prefer like digital pianos over the like feeling of a wood? Like, do you care about the sound at all like that, or is it really just can you play? Like, are you really more concerned about the music itself?
I think it's both, and I think it like depends kind of what the setting is for it. And like, there's on my album itself, there are a few songs where I played like an actual grand piano. Most of that actually, pretty much everything on my album where I'm like playing an actual piano, I record at home, like on the piano, like which is really
like a
special.
microphone to the piano.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have your own setup for that? Like, what kind of
well,
microphones?
so it's the piano. Like I have a special, like it's called like Earthworks or something like that.
Okay.
But it's like specifically for recording piano. But the piano I have at home is like the one I kind of grew up with. It's crazy because piano, like especially it's the type of thing where as a piano player you're gonna be playing a million different instruments, just like in different space. You're just like, there's a piano there, like I'll play it, whatever. But every piano definitely has its own character. It brings out like something different in your playing, whatever. But the piano I have at home is like the one I grew up with. I've been playing since I was a kid. I feel like it's probably my favorite one. Like I'm very like attached to it. Like I feel comfortable at it and everything. So it was kind of special in a way, honestly, to get to play it on like certain songs on my album. Like like on
that's
Solitude,
awesome.
on the one with Tayshawn, for example. Like that one starts with just me playing the piano.
Wow.
And someday you'll be playing at the Garden on that piano.
The same piano.
And
How
then you'll
often
be-
do you have to get it tuned?
Probably like twice a year.
Twice
or
a
so,
year?
Especially
Do you
Okay.
tune it, or do you have a guy?
I do. A guy comes to do it, but yeah, like especially in this climate, like in New England with the weather and everything, obviously it's super important.
Is it like
Yeah.
leather straps or something? Or I think we had a piano in my house where it was like
Oh,
leather,
yeah.
and we had to get it repaired. Or it was like not worth getting it repaired or something because you couldn't like chain them together like some of them are. I don't
Should
know.
I say? Yeah.
Is that like? Do you have anything like
I
that? or-
don't know actually. I know it's like. The one we have actually was like made in Japan or something.
Oh, okay.
It was like it has like I don't know a lot about the details like how specifically it's made, but it's like handmade or something.
It probably does have the leather straps because like whatever the hammers that like hit from the keys, I think
Yeah.
like some of them have chains, and I think some of them have like leather, so it's supposed to be more of like an organic feel
see.
or something like that.
makes
That's like what they
sense,
said.
honestly, yeah.
I don't know. That's just what
Yeah,
people
yeah.
say. But I think that
Yeah.
might get out of tune faster because it can like
Yeah.
stretch and stuff.
That
so,
makes sense, yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Interesting.
Yeah.
Who are some of your biggest inspirations as far as playing the piano? Who are your favorite pianists?
Growing up, it was a
I was
my God.
I was literally about to say piano player for that reason. I didn't.
You could just say pianist.
Penis. That's how you
Penis.
say it, right? Pianist.
Sorry, bro. That's not what this is about. We're cutting this all out. It's probably gonna stay in though. That's,
Oh, I guess
that's how
what to
this
say.
whole thing goes.
So
Do you have influences in piano? I'm sorry.
Yeah. You're good. Growing up, it was a ton of like kind of like straight ahead jazz and stuff like that. It was what I was really listening to. There's this guy whose name, like, he used to play with Miles Davis in the 50s. His name was Red Garland. He was someone, like, you might not know of him. He wasn't, like, he didn't make a ton of his own albums, but he played, like, in Miles Davis's band, like, in the 1950s or whatever. He had, like, something in his sound and his touch, and the piano was, like, super bright, really popped out. Like, even, like, it was in the 1950s where they had, like, shitty microphones and everything. But there was something about, like, his touch on the piano. You can hear, like, one note of him and recognize who it is. And that was always, like...
That's awesome.
More so than anything, like, the sound and the touch and everything is, like, something like... That I feel like as a piano player, that's how you get, like, the personality out of the instrument and stuff like that.
That is actually really interesting, like, the velocity and, like, that you hit a key.
Yeah, that, like, one key could be so distinct like that.
Without a doubt,
who it is. That's amazing.
Even, like, in a lot of these classic recordings that, like, we, like, idolize and stuff like that, a lot of times they are playing, like, shitty upright pianos in, like, whoever's studio it was or whatever. But, like, to be able to, like, actually, like, get character and get sound out of that is, like, it's insane, even in the days when there was, like, limited recording technologies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That is
so Red Garland was someone for me. Definitely, like, a bunch of other jazz people. Lately, like, someone, I mean, obviously is, like, kind of a big name is Robert Glasper, who he's worked on.
Yeah.
He's kind of done, like, a little different, but, like, similar to me in the sense where he, like, kind of, like, combines different styles of music, where he's, like, versed in jazz and classical music, but he also, like, he played on To Pimp a Butterfly, for example.
Oh, okay.
He works with a bunch of different rappers. He's in a project right now with Ninth Wonder, Terrace Martin.
I was wondering if there's anyone like that, like, who plays the piano in the hip-hop scene like that, like, who's you know, on that level, plays with, like, Kendrick or Kanye. Because I always wonder where they get the keys from, if it's, like, you know, if they're just downloading that or if someone's playing it live. Like, I never know.
Yeah, he's a name that definitely inspires me, but I think, like, these days I'm inspired by a lot of, like, different kinds of music, a lot of, like, even, like, people, like, even some music I feel like has no, like, similarity or relevance to, like, what I'm doing, but, like, really what I'm drawn to is, like, I think I'm, like, kind of, like, an emotional person at heart or whatever, and, like, I really, like, am just, like, my favorite thing is people that are just, like, able to, like, do whatever it is they do and, like, convey their emotions through the art, which is what I try to do.
Important. You gotta have those emotions.
For sure, yeah.
No, I don't have emotions.
Yeah.
I feel nothing.
It's a lot easier not to. So what are your, I guess, speaking of emotions, when you're performing live, that's, like, probably the most visceral emotion that you can get, like, from your music.
Yeah.
What are, like, your favorite performances you've had, and where have they been?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. That's actually, like, kind of like a theme of my album in a way. Like, where it's, like, called The Star or Lonely Dreamer.
I was going to ask what the significance of that title is. Too. Yeah.
Kind of what it's about is, like, we as artists, I feel like sometimes there's, like, such a contrast between what we go through when we're performing and where we're just, like, regular people out in the world. Where it's, like, there's these moments where it's, like, we're on stage, there's bright lights, there's a curtain, whatever. We're on stage, there's fans in the audience, like, shouting our name, whatever it is. It definitely gives you, like, this kind of, like, elevated sense of, like, who you are. Like, puts you on a high in a way.
Puts you on a high, and then you got to come down from that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think something that, like, a theme of this album to me, like, kind of what some of the songs I kind of deal with is, like, something I've kind of, like, dealt with kind of the past couple of years is kind of finding, like, the space and the balance between those two sides of myself, like the quote-unquote star, like, this performer, and then this person that you are, like, just, like, in everyday life and, like, in the moment when, like, the lights shut off and everything.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, you are the same person, and, like, they interact with each other. I definitely feel like they're different sides of my personality, but I definitely feel like they influence each other too. Yeah,
and I've talked about this a couple times on the podcast. Are you familiar with the Pixar movie Soul?
I actually did see it, yeah.
Because what you're describing is a lot like the plot of that movie, like, where it's, like, the performance of, like, that awesome feeling of, like, you're in the pocket, you float away to that world of, like, this is so good and this is what I've been waiting for and I'm feeling. Great show. He comes out like, what's next? But it's like, we're still ourselves. That was the show, and we're out here doing our thing. Like, that is interesting to see how that happens.
I think it definitely took me, like, kind of, like, a sense of, like, kind of growing in maturity to kind of, like, come to terms with that. Like, it wasn't, like, an easy thing in a way for me to, like, kind of, like, really genuinely feel like I, like, found the balance between the two, because I feel like if you don't, it's really easy to just be fake when you go on stage and perform, or when you're out in the world, to just, like, kind of, like, distance yourself and sabotage and stuff, and to just, like, I think something I've really tried to do, like, in both situations these days, is just be present and just, like, kind of, like, be in the moment, like, genuinely as much as I can, and, like, just, like, kind of be real, honestly.
And do you feel that there would be, like, that means that there's, like, a part of you in the past that wasn't being sincere about your performances, or that you were, like, faking it, so to speak, and or is it that you haven't released anything now or performed now that you didn't feel was authentic? Is that, like, how you've curated it, I guess?
I guess for me, it kind of feels like being real and being authentic, as you mentioned, is kind of, it's not like some, like, bar we cross when we've, like, okay, like, I've succeeded, now I'm a real person.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a state of, like, continually, like, doing that, like, every single performance, or every, like, both as a musician and just as, like, a human being.
Okay.
And I think for me, like, a big part of what it comes from is just, like, vulnerability, honestly, at the end of the day, and just, like, being open about that. I think with my music, like, there's a lot of, like, a lot of times I feel like my songs are very, like, confessional in a way where I'm, like, kind of, like, talking about, like, certain emotions or things that, like, were, like, even if it's not, like, in a super specific way, that, like, kind of, like, were, like, troubled me in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, just, like, in putting music out, it's crazy. There's this essay I really enjoyed by James Baldwin, actually, called "The Artist's Struggle for Integrity," which I remember reading. It had a big effect on me. But what he was kind of talking about was that, like, basically this idea that, like, emotions are just something that, like, every person goes through, like, every human being alive, no matter who you are, like, goes through certain, like, common emotions. But the difference is that as an artist, you're kind of responsible in a way for kind of, like, going in, like, deeper and kind of, like, going into that emotion, trying to, like, get something out of it, like, for the purpose of, like, creating your art, or for the purpose of, like, releasing something or putting out in the world.
Yep.
Which is, like, kind of, like, in a sense, it's kind of like this burden, honestly.
Yeah.
Just because, like, at times, like, I feel like there's a danger that, like, in doing that at all, it takes you out of being genuine, just because, like, there are times when I felt like I've experienced something, I'd be like, wow, wouldn't this be crazy to write a song about or something? And I think in moments like that, then, like, you're not being genuine.
That makes sense, because you're at that point, it feels like you're doing it for the purpose of making a song.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was, when you said that, it kind of made me think, like, would there be a certain pain or something that you would put yourself through to feel like, almost like a method actor, like, I'm gonna go through a breakup so I can make a breakup song, you know, like something like that. Like,
Taylor Swift definitely does that.
How do you feel about Taylor?
Honestly.
We're going to do a 20-minute Taylor segment. If you like Taylor. No, she's super talented. I'm just kidding.
But she definitely gets into relationships and is like, oh, this is going to make a great song when we break up. I feel like she does that.
I mean,
I remember, yeah, as a kid even, like, I must have been in, like, 6th or 7th grade. I had, like, a songwriting teacher who was, like, he said something, he was like, it's all fun and games until that first breakup hits you. It's like, that's when your writing just really gets real. You'll just, like, have something in you that it's just like, it'll just come out. It'll just, like, be the next
It's
level.
kind of, yeah.
Because wasn't it there, like, a saying, it's like, when you fall in love, you understand the happy songs, and when you, like, get your heart broken, you understand the sad songs. Like, but when you don't know either, like, you don't know the lyrics, you don't really understand them. You know, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
There have certainly been songs that had emotion behind them that, until I reached a certain point in life, or, like, had similar experience, I was like, I didn't know what they were even saying.
That's definitely true. That's something I really strive for in my music too. Is the type of thing where it's like, first of all, I mean, it has to be, like, good enough. Like, it has to, like, sound good enough that someone will actually, like, want to listen to it, like, multiple times. But once you get to that level, what I really strive to do is, like, kind of create something where it's like you can listen to it on multiple occasions, different times in your life, and, like, get something genuinely different out of it.
Right.
Like, it just means something different to you based on, like, it kind of enhances whatever you're going through in life. And yeah, because I think about, like, a lot of, like, my favorite music, it's done that to me, and so that's, like, really something I'd, like, try to just, like, put out into the world for, like, whoever it reaches.
I love that. I love that about artists. Like, most of us don't talk about our deepest feelings, you know what I mean? Not publicly.
Usually not, yeah.
Not publicly like that, but for a musician, it's almost your job to do that. So it's
Yeah.
like, it's kind of insane.
It's so
like,
weird. That's, like, something, like, about the album title particularly, that's something that kind of inspired me, is because it was kind of this feeling that, like, as artists, there's such this, like dichotomy, contradiction of, like, kind of what we go through and what we're, like, kind of, like, forced to, like, kind of do to be, like, a deep artist or, like, a real artist or whatever. And I think in a sense, sometimes there's a danger of it even like kind of like sabotaging relationships. So just by like taking the space that you need to kind of like dwell on certain like emotional like occurrences, but also like just like the feeling of like being like, okay, I like went through this so that I can like put it out or whatever, so that I can like kind of quote grow from it or whatever. Is to me, I don't know, it's different for each person, but sometimes like that makes me feel fake in my head.
That makes sense, I guess. I mean, yeah, like I said before, like you never want to feel like you're going through things or doing anything for the sole purpose of making music. You want the music to be an influence of to be influenced by what you're going through. Like, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Do you ever catch yourself like stopping those thoughts? You're like when you say that this could become a great song, you're like, oh, now I'm thinking it could be a great song. Was I doing that on purpose? Like, do you have to stop yourself? Like, no, this is going to be good, and I have to keep writing this or something like that. Like, jot that down, you know?
I think something that I try to do, like when I write songs, like to me, like the best song, when I feel like my best about songwriting is I feel like it's like a perfect description of like kind of like one moment.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And in that one moment, it's like, it's more simple. It's more complicated than just like one emotion's kind of going through your mind. It's kind of like, it's like a whole world of shit. Like, it's like whatever you're thinking about, who you interacted with that day, what you did when you woke up that morning, whatever. But all of that kind of like combined creates this one sort of like surreal experience.
Yeah.
In a way. And I think that it's like, in a sense, even like with like this album, how I took so long to put it together, really, what I want the listener to take out of it is not necessarily that I like took so long and it like combined like a bunch of different periods to create one thing, but that it really is like kind of one moment. And like it's like one moment like kind of as an experience that you like convey to the listener, and then like everyone probably is going to get something different out of it, just like based on like where they are like life-wise. But
and you're doing this from a perspective of music, right? You aren't writing the lyrics here, so this is like that has to add another layer of complexity where the storytelling.
You are writing the lyrics.
I did write like a.
You are writing the lyrics.
The singers.
Oh, I see. I'm
the
sorry.
rapper.
I was okay. Then I misunderstood because I was totally under the impression that they all wrote that like within your music.
So so on the album, all the different singers, the one like the part Jolie sang and Erica and Naledi and
Gotcha.
Evan, those are all parts that I wrote, like the hooks of all the songs.
Do you sing it all?
Not really. Like
You're
I've
obviously
kind
a good songwriter. You have a to ear for.
He
for
does
music,
sing. He's
so.
being humble, guys. I can
How's
tell.
your singing voice? Is it passable?
I've kind of, to be honest, I have kind of like struggled with and be like, is this something I should kind of like pursue at all? I kind of feel like I've found peace with kind of like I write songs and then bring in like more talented vocalists than myself to kind of perform them.
Have you tried to sing? Like,
but I definitely feel like what I enjoy doing is like kind of like writing something with a specific person in mind. Kind of, it'd be like this person's voice would really like kind of carry this song.
And do you sing like a reference track for them?
Sometimes I do. A lot of times I just like kind of like play it on the piano and like kind of like write it out, like the lyrics and stuff like that.
Cool. Interesting.
That is interesting. So you don't have, it sounds like, your own home studio. You'll bring this into a studio to officially record?
I have a setup in my place. It's not huge, but I have like a microphone for recording some vocals. I have obviously my piano and keyboard set up. I have a bunch of stuff there, but anything like with this album, there's like a bunch of stuff where there's like a whole live band on it, obviously. And so we had to go into a bigger studio for that, of course.
Where'd you go?
For most of it, we went to the Bridge Sound and Stage over in Cambridge.
Shout out the Bridge. Yeah, we always hear Bridge.
Yeah, no, for sure. The big
Shout
part
out
of the
Archetype.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great spot. Yeah, we recorded like that's one of the best studios in Boston. I feel like
I hear that one in Phoenix Town. They're the one that we hear about the most.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to love to go to
the Sound
those
Lab
places.
keeps coming up too.
The Sound Lab too, Brockton.
That's C4 spot.
Yeah.
Jay Rose works out of there. There's a lot of good spots. I feel like there's more than there used to be. Just
for sure,
places for musicians to congregate and like go to one place. And then obviously everyone has their own setup at home as they should.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
Well, what's cool about this album is it's like the band we all recorded at the Bridge for the most part, but all the rappers that were on it, that were basically the bands got recorded like first. That was like kind of the first thing that got down. And then we had like those audio files that like the rappers would record on top of. And so I got the chance to kind of work with each of them individually and kind of get a glimpse of like what their process was like. And it's really fascinating just because everyone's workflow is totally different.
Right.
There are some people that like just get to the studio right there. and just like record it there, like on the moment.
That's crazy to me.
That's so stressful.
I would have to
There's-
go. I would
yeah.
have to be so prepared before I went to the
Honestly,
studio.
yeah.
Also, studios are expensive.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
No,
I'm not
for
trying
sure,
to get.
yeah.
I'm not trying to pay for time to sit there and write.
That's
Like,
not really
prepared.
like
That's
because
something you should
for
do.
me, like I'm like such a perfectionist.
Yeah.
I might take
Yeah.
like weeks just like trying to do like one simple thing at
Yeah.
times. So just like if that's like as long as it takes me to like feel like it's like actually like ready to be put out.
Right.
So there are some people that are more like that like kind of like take their time with things. There are some people that I've worked with that even like don't even like working in studios just because it feels like even being in the studio like it just kind of puts like a timeline on their process
Yeah.
in a way that's
I
kinda,
get
like,
that. I
struggle.
get that too. If you're like, oh, I only got an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah, it
get
is
this
kind of
done.
funny how like no matter how much you could create in that amount of time, it automatically gets cut because you're stressed about making it within that time.
All of a
Yeah.
sudden you're like, oh, it's already been 15 minutes. It's like,
Yeah,
I only
exactly,
have
yeah.
45 left. What do
For
I do?
sure.
And like
Yeah,
you
no,
said, you're writing as much as you need to at any given time. So you
Yeah.
think you wasted that 15 minutes, but it was part of the process. But now you're stressed
Very,
because you
very
thought you
true.
wasted it. It's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, without doubt. Yeah. For me, I think that's why I like working like basically all my writing and stuff like that. Like I like even when people hit me up to do projects and stuff like that, like anything that like I feel like requires creative input from me, like I feel like I kind of just have to like work on my own timetable. I'm the type of person to really like kind of take my time with stuff. And being like really comfortable and like kind of where I am in my setting is super important for me. Like, which is why I think like most of my writing, it's like, as I said, like everything kind of starts at the piano. That's a spot where I kind of feel comfortable to kind of like take whatever time is needed just to like get my ideas out, just make everything as good as it can be, and like just feel kind of complete in my head before I even like think about bringing other people or like any other ideas into the process.
And do you ever take like a small version of your keyboard? Like, would you go somewhere and sit, or is it always like where it like in your home, like playing at your station?
Yeah, so I have my keyboard too. It's a Nord that if you ever seen me playing live, it's like a red keyboard.
Yeah,
that I feel
I've seen
yeah.
it. I've seen it.
I feel like it's become like my signature. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
But I feel like that, like even I'm obviously it's very dear to my heart. It's my baby. But I feel like that versus like the actual grand piano that I have at home is like there's something like special about that. That's just like sitting at the bench of the piano and just like kind of like feeling at home is like there's like
Yeah.
there's like no substitute for that.
That's your sweet spot right
yeah.
there.
Makes sense, yeah. So you mentioned that it's kind of hard to find reliable bandmates, and that's not a knock on your
Yeah.
bandmates. It's just that schedules are schedules,
It's true. Yeah.
and you got to do what you got to do. I do want to shout out someone who seems to be, at least from my perspective, doing something similar to what you're doing. Is DCO Sounds? I think he's pretty young. He's a guitar player. He's been collabing with, like, I think, literally everybody that
A lot of rappers from around here.
everybody. Yeah, he'll play acoustic guitar, and they
It started
spit
with
a verse.
Bougie Boy Zoot.
Yeah, was he the
I
first?
think he was the first one I saw, and then it was Y Jizzle, and then it was like a bunch of people.
Yeah, so check out this kid. I think he's
Word.
like 16 or something. He's probably like
crazy.
25.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I feel like he
always
seems
hard
so
to
young.
tell.
Yeah.
He's definitely like new. He just popped up in the last few months, I want to say, and
I
like
see.
he's just been playing guitar, and people are rapping over it, and it's
Word.
he did one with Rosewood Bape too. Yeah, he's been like working with like a bunch of Boston artists, so that could be a cool collaboration.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
hell yeah.
definitely. Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys should definitely get in touch.
Yeah,
Just like
absolutely.
bare minimum if you need a fill-in. So
Yeah. no, for
otherwise,
sure.
collab. Yeah. So can we find Shane Dillon merch anywhere?
That's a good question. At the moment, not available publicly, but however, I did have a friend. It's actually crazy because he's actually like a childhood friend, like someone I grew up with. He actually designed 2 different jackets for me that say like the album title on it, A Star or Lonely Dreamer. One of them I actually wore to my album release concert.
Oh, that's
Which was actually really fire. His name, to shout him out, his name is Gabby Brea. He is a brand. It's called Ninth Method.
Ninth Method.
Okay.
You can find him on Instagram or whatever. But yeah, he actually designed 2 different jackets for me. And that's what I'm really trying to get in touch with a little bit more, is I kind of like the fashion side of everything. And
Yeah.
like definitely in the future, I do want
That's
to have
a big
like
part.
merch.
Like you said, the image is huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So it's like fashion is something that I never even really thought about, honestly.
Yeah.
But now, like I feel like in the past couple of years, meeting all these artists and stuff, and they're all so focused on like their image and
Yeah.
wearing nice clothes and stuff that like when I get around artists, sometimes I'm like I I need to step it up a little bit. Like,
Oh man, I'm wearing a 15-year-old American Eagle T-shirt right now.
Yeah.
It's that Richie Piff swag. Right?
This is how Richie Piff dresses. Whoever that is. But yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I love seeing stuff like, I mean, like it speaks to fashion, but also like to every part of the process. I feel like something that really like inspires me is like, as an artist, being able to like bring in different people to do different things that you need that are actually like people that you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like having someone that I know actually like design jackets for me.
That's
or,
awesome.
Like, it's like,
That's awesome.
it's really like brings it like kind of closer to home in a way. Where it's like every part of the process is actually like someone that like is a part of your life. Is like, to me, like there's no substitute for that, and that's something I like hope to kind of keep with, like that kind of mentality in the future.
Yeah, it definitely takes a village, and it's different. It's a completely different feeling when it's someone who you care about, that cares about you, that's supporting you, and is doing the work that you would otherwise be just paying a stranger for.
a fact,
So
yeah.
it's
Like some of the local artist merch that we wear, like the logos and designs are so cool and everything. It's like,
yeah.
I wear that and I feel like I'm wearing like designer or something. Because people ask me about it. They're like, oh, that's dope. I'm like, bought this for $20 for my friend.
Yeah. Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
I do it every time I'm at a show now because I was wearing the Nasty shirt I got a couple years ago at our Smoke Bulger thing, and a few people commented on it, and I was like,
oh, that's sick. I'm like,
oh. And the funny thing is they would go, sick nasty shirt, which is like 2004 slang of
Sick
just being like,
nasty.
sick nasty, dude. You know, like- This is me now feeling old.
yeah, that's before your time.
Yeah, dude. I used to say sick nasty in 3rd grade when things were so cool.
I remember when people started saying ill. They transitioned from sick to ill. It used to just be sick. And then all of a sudden when we were in like 5th grade, people started saying ill. I was like, what's going on?
I remember when people started saying word, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know why you're saying that. Just say okay.
I say that all the time now.
Yeah.
I've honestly recently started saying bet in the last like 2 years.
Oh, man.
I'm still
that's
picking up.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm still picking up on the young kids slang.
Yeah, I learned about no cap a couple years ago.
I still don't use that one.
Yeah, I don't use that one. What about chuggy? You guys saying chuggy?
Nobody's saying chuggy. What does that
I
mean?
think that's just internet stuff because apparently the younger generation, if something's not cool, you know, someone like will say like that's chips, like that's bad or whatever, like that's what chuggy is, I guess. But
I haven't heard that one.
That's
yet.
what people say. Yeah, I've seen. That's
That
a
one
TikTok
hasn't reached
thing.
me yet.
Yeah, I guess you're not on the talk.
I'm not on the talk. No. Are you on TikTok?
I'm actually not really.
No.
We were just told we should get on TikTok, and we were like, "That's a great idea."
I mean, you're young. Are a lot of people your age using it?
I feel like you're an old soul, though.
Yeah, I
You
probably
Yeah,
am.
you're not. You probably don't even know what people your age are doing.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like definitely like. I mean, obviously there've been people that like blown up through that, but I feel like for people I know, a lot of musicians, surprisingly, I've like it's not been like on people's radars as much as you would.
I remember like a couple years ago when it was really blowing up. People were like, "Oh, this could be big for musicians. Like, get your song on TikTok." But it's like,
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know.
I mean, everyone was at first concerned about like because it's like not an American run app that like your data is being shared in like way less safe ways, but also it's like your
I'd
data
be
is
concerned
out
about
there.
that if it was an American app too.
Well, I was gonna say it's like there's like
For a fact.
that's more just like a news segment than
Yeah.
like anything to really worry about because like if someone wants your information, it's there.
Yeah.
Like it's out there.
Honestly,
for
they
sure.
can have it. I got nothing to hide.
All of us. Yeah, you do. You say that. You say that until your search history
Take
is
all
up.
my information. Oh, my search history? I don't know about that.
You said you got nothing. Nothing
Well,
to hide.
Stuff that I
slippery
wouldn't want my
slope.
mom to see, but like nothing, you know.
All right, we're going through your trash. We're going through your trash. No. Do you guys remember that? Oh, I don't know. I'm just thinking about weird movie references now. I was just thinking about a movie where this guy was like going through their trash, and it was like to like figure out if they were like scamming the IRS. But it's a whole. People do that, I think. You know, if you're getting audited for real. But yeah.
You can go through my trash.
It's all yours.
No, on the real though, TikTok is the move. It's not. I mean, I'm sure your data can be breached anywhere, but
Is TikTok the move?
for musicians, and I think if you're like an entertainer, you might as well.
It's worth a shot. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's worth
it's
a
like
shot.
because Hero talked about. This isn't his point, but he talked about it on our podcast. Was like if there's a distribution app that gets you less than 1% of your overall streams, but it gets it gets 10, put your music on there. So if there's content you're putting out and you're not putting it out on this other app that some people are looking at that might not be on the other apps you're looking at, or maybe the algorithm gets you up in the front of theirs. Like if you get 10 more viewers on your stuff on TikTok versus Instagram, and you also still have Instagram, why not also have the
That's
TikTok?
such a fact, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that song is like, as an artist, especially like in 2021, you really need to just explore every avenue you can.
Yeah.
What do you have to lose, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. And definitely there's things you pursue, like kind of, it's just like kind of a long shot, or like not everything pans out, obviously. But it's just kind of like to get your name out, you just gotta like, you kind of gotta go all for it.
Yeah. I mean, there are songs that there's songs that kids refer to as TikTok songs.
Yeah.
That is kind of.
And I've heard them in other places, and I'm like, what makes this a TikTok song? But it went viral on TikTok, apparently.
Yeah.
And it'll be like a Ja Rule song from like 2002. I'm like, this is not a TikTok song. Like, I knew this song a long time
I've heard
ago.
that of like parents like playing something for their kids. And they say it's a TikTok song. And they're like, oh my god, this is Missy Elliott.
Yeah,
You're
it's
like,
like, Missy
Honestly.
Elliott. It's like, you were not around when this was popular.
oh man.
Honestly, yeah. To me, it's like, it definitely makes me feel like an old soul. But I think it's like something about like all that like does, I think, kind of, sometimes there's a danger of it kind of getting in the way of people like actually listening to a full album or something like that.
That's the
which kind
thing.
of,
The
like,
TikTok thing, it's just a snippet of a song. It's
right.
Like, you're not getting the full experience.
It's such a trade-off, because at the end of the day, it's like, as an artist, yes, you want everyone to hear your shit.
Right.
Whatever. But there's something that's like, for me, like there's no substitute for actually like having like the full like immersive experience.
Like
Yeah.
you said, like you still listen to albums like in order.
Yeah, even
Which,
just like that.
That's
makes
not
me feel like
the
an old
TikTok
soul,
generation is not listening to albums
Yeah.
in order. Unfortunately,
No way. No way.
they don't have the patience.
I think just the fact that like people are still like making albums like that, and that like that
That
art
I
form has
love.
not been lost.
That
It's,
I
like, so
love.
that's like enough for me. I think it's like
I say that like my parents sometimes, like I'll mention like an album, they're like, they still make albums? I'm like, yes.
yeah, no,
That's
for
how
sure.
out of touch my parents are sometimes. But they're like they still make album, because when I say album, they think of like a record. I'm like, yeah, they're digital,
the
but yeah, they
turntable
still
out,
make
yeah.
them. Records
is
actually
funny.
have kind of made a comeback a little bit.
They really have, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a record player?
My dad does actually, yeah.
Nice.
I was gonna say I would find it hard to believe if you didn't have a record player
Yeah,
available to
true.
you.
True.
That is based on your like classical training of music.
Mhm.
I was just at someone's house like a week ago that was playing Christmas music on a record, and I've honest to God never seen. I've like my grandparents had a record player and they would play it, but I never like looked at it or like how it was used. And I always wondered, how does the needle like? How do you not just start in the middle of a song? Like, how do you not know like
Brilliant.
like
yeah.
where you
When
are?
you think about it, it's How
So-
does that work?
Yeah.
I think it's the wide grooves or the separated songs.
I
I
don't
think
know.
like, but also you would start it on the outer edge
That
and then
would
it just
make
plays
sense,
through
yeah.
the whole album. So like you go through everything like,
Oh, because it goes from
Yeah.
the outside to,
To
the
the
inside.
inside. Yeah.
I got you.
Right.
and that would make
And you have
sense.
to like flip it over and everything. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
second half, yeah.
All right.
So that experience was a lot more like you had to sit down with this stationary record player, play the record, and
yeah.
listen to the whole thing, or some of it and
Yeah.
come back and finish it, or like it's like
Yeah,
not.
for
It
sure,
wasn't like
yeah.
you're on the train, kind of looking out the window, not paying attention. Something happened and you missed that part of the song. Like
Yeah.
there's like a
Right,
full
right.
immersive listening
Dude,
experience.
remember
that used to go to-
CDs?
Yeah.
I can't even believe
I can't believe that's such an old thing now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I used to use CDs. I only recently have a car. The car I have now is the first car that I've ever had that has
Doesn't
the
have-
aux cable
Yeah,
or
I
like
see.
Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Because I always had CDs. Like I would have a 6 CD
Right,
changer,
right,
and I'd
yeah.
have
Yeah.
like mixtapes of shit. Like
No,
putting
me
it-
too.
for
I would
sure.
burn CDs. I would say like, from high school like till a little bit after. When did the CDs really die? Like 2011, like around then.
I was doing this in like 2013,
Yeah.
14.
Yeah, I was
so,
doing it
yeah.
later than that actually too. I was
For
I,
sure,
probably
yeah.
till like 2013 or 14.
Yeah, definitely.
There was one
Until I stopped
song-
driving the Saab. The Saab had a CD player.
Oh really?
But since then, I haven't driven a car with a CD player.
What was worse, by the way, than those FM receivers that pretended to be aux plugs? Just get out of here, you know? Remember?
Oh, dude, remember the cassette tapes with the cord attached to
Those
them?
were better. Those were
with
good.
the cord attached to them, and you put it in the cassette. And
I was
I was
had
like,
a
how
car.
does this even work? You just put a cord into the cassette player and it worked?
Yeah.
The car that I borrowed like in high school and college it was the 1 year that it was in between aux and it had just gotten rid of the cassette. So I couldn't do anything good like that to plug my phone in, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. It was so frustrating because the cassette was better. Like, it didn't shake. There was no skips. Like, maybe in some cases there were, but I felt like this
can't
cassette
believe
was way more
that.
stable.
Just like 10 years ago, I was listening to CDs all the time in the car.
Yeah.
And I would burn a CD of like my 15, 16 favorite songs at the time. And then those are the 15 songs I would listen to for the next 2 months. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
That's
because now
definitely
you just have
something, yeah.
endless music at your fingertips.
For
Yeah.
sure,
You're just
yeah.
gonna listen
That's
to whatever.
definitely like
Because
some-
now, like,
yeah.
I hear certain songs that were on those CDs that I used to play, and it reminds me of driving to school or
Yeah,
like wherever I was
Yeah.
at that point, because it would be the same order of songs every day. I'd be in the same spot when the same song.
What's
came on.
what's like one of the most memorable songs off your mixtape that you have right off the bat in your mind? I know there's one.
Mac Miller. What one was it?
yeah.
I mean, Best Day Ever. Mac Miller was the first song on the album. As I was coming out of the driveway, senior year of high school, I would drive to school every day. That's the first song that would
Every
come
day.
on.
Oh, interesting.
That's crazy. You
Yeah.
probably thought of it a different way every day too.
Yeah. So, and it says like this is gonna be the best day ever. So I started my day with that
It's
song
beautiful.
every single day.
That is
So now,
nice.
anytime I hear that song, I think about pulling out of the driveway and going to school.
Nice.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You don't really have that anymore. Because now every time I get in the car, it's a different song that I want to listen to.
That is
Yeah.
to
It's
me
like-
is like one of the most powerful things about music though. Is it's just like, it just kind of like stamps like kind of like a moment
Yeah.
in history in your mind. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like kind of something. It's like you remember like. For me, it's like with my music, it does the same thing too. Like
Yeah.
it takes you back to like where the first time you heard it or
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
I love that about music.
The best thing about it is if it was a bad time, you just never listen to that music again.
Or you listen to it and you're like,
You get over it.
you're like, things are so much. You're like, remember how shitty things were when this song was popular?
Oh man.
But yeah, that is a beautiful thing about music. It always brings you back to where you first heard the song, or where, you know, if you heard it during a significant time in your life, like it'll just always stick out to you.
What is your memorable driving song?
I don't know if I have a good answer. I think for me, honestly, I did come of the age where it was like when I first started listening to music, it was the type of thing where everyone was accessible. You know?
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Oh, interesting. I believe you. That would make sense here. I mean, we were close because some kids I
That's what
remember
I'm
in
saying.
high
I'm
school
talking
had
about-
iPhones and stuff. Like,
We were at like the tail end of that.
mm,
You know, like
Yeah,
there were probably about 4 years, like once I got my license, where that was where, you know, you were playing CDs still, and then
For
then
sure.
it became the aux cord, and
Yeah,
then it became
and
the Bluetooth.
Yeah,
you
no,
had
for-
an iPod. You still have the iPod.
I still do have
with
my
like
iPod.
That's fire.
everything
I
in
think
it.
it's,
Yeah.
I think it's down here
It's
somewhere.
around the corner.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It has like every song you could
iPod
ever
Classic.
think of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
like 10,000 songs on there. Probably.
Those were the
For sure,
best.
yeah.
Nothing past 2012. That's when I
Yeah.
stopped putting music on it, but I still
Interesting.
listen to it every now and
Yeah.
then because it brings me back.
Something that's interesting to me though is that like, it's like for certain music, but I feel like honestly, it's like a lot of music these days is like kind of like invites this kind of feeling of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Even things that are like kind of like forward thinking or whatever that means. It
Yeah.
kind of like something about music is like really kind of like takes you back or whatever. In a
Yeah,
way.
Yeah.
even certain songs that are new, like you hear them for the first time, and it brings
Yeah,
you back
and
to a
like-
certain time
Well,
in your
Bruno
life.
Mars and Anderson .Paak are doing that
They really
right
kill
now.
that, yeah.
So
Such a
big.
good
Yeah.
album.
Fact, yeah.
Such a good
Yeah,
album.
They really killed that shit.
Yeah. Oh my God. Leaving the door open.
That is
Oh,
such
yeah.
a good album. Shout out to them.
so good.
What else are you listening to right now?
I've always listened to like my music is very like sporadic that I listen to.
Yeah.
Lately I feel like I've been like on a really big like kind of R&B binge. Kind
Okay.
Of, like recently kind of like in the past like year or so, but I've been really into
Yeah.
like a lot of people like Kehlani, Black, Blast. A bunch of people honestly, but like that plus like a lot of Boston artists honestly I've been listening to. Like
Yeah.
of course, kind of
Same.
And yeah, like I think like I'm the type of person to like I feel like in a way kind of like goes against like things that I kind of like believe in kind of, but I'm the type of person to like want to listen to like new stuff like all the time.
I'm like
Does
that
that make
too.
sense? Yeah.
I'm like that too, especially nowadays where, like we said, everything's accessible. It's like I'm always looking for the new thing.
Yeah, for sure. That's something I kind of have to fight against, I think, is that there's certain albums that like kind of like deserve to kind of like get
You
your,
don't.
like,
Yeah,
time.
sometimes you have to take the time to actually appreciate an album and like put it on loop for a
And,
couple
like,
weeks
come back
and
to
like
it,
really
too,
keep
for
coming
sure.
back to it. And
It's so weird though, because I always feel like sometimes it like puts you in danger of like, oh, you're missing
I
this
find-
and this and this and this.
yeah, I find like I don't memorize the words to songs like I used to. Like I used to listen to the same
Crazy,
song so many
yeah.
times that I just know it by heart. I know every single word. Now it's like I don't spend enough time listening to a song to actually learn it.
Yeah. Well, there's like too much. And I think your
Yeah.
brain kind of
Yeah.
automatically does that. Like it filters out information. Like this is not important to my survival.
Eventually,
so I'm not
it's
gonna
like
remember
eventually my
thousands.
brain's like stop memorizing music
Yeah,
lyrics.
yeah.
Like that's enough of that. You got to leave some space for other things.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, what they want, what they want,
Yeah,
what they
exactly.
want.
Like, but
Dollar
I listen to the
signs.
songs, like I said, I'll put on my iPod and I'll listen to songs that I actually haven't even listened to since like 2011, and I still know every single word to it.
Right.
It's insane.
That's honestly something you got to think about as an artist too, because it's like with social media and shit, especially, it's kind of puts you in the impulse. It's like you got to have more and more and more content
Yeah.
like every week or whatever.
But it's
it
like,
is.
how do you get something to stick?
Yeah,
if
because
you're
that's
just
your
putting out the
ultimate goal. Is
stuff
it's like I
all the
want to have a
time.
song that's like gonna get stuck in someone's head. They're gonna
Right.
want to listen
You
to
could
it.
put out
They're
a song
gonna
every
play
week
it.
for the whole
Yeah.
year, but if nobody's memorizing the lyrics and singing it to themselves, then what's the point, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. There's definitely some music that there's a lot of lyrics that are not profound that I have deeply ingrained in my mind. So
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I'm an island boy.
Oh no! Ah!
Honestly,
Like, tell me that didn't get stuck in your head at one point
It
in the
did.
last month
It
or
did.
so. Like, come on.
We were in Five Guys the other day, just like singing that.
I'm an island boy. I keep my vest on, yeah.
Oh man. No, not Five Guys. Oh my God, Tasty Burger. They're same idea.
Same
Yeah.
thing.
that's like the ultimate goal though. Like for me, that's something I ever think about is like getting a song stuck in someone's head. It's
Yeah.
so funny because like a lot of people say like something stuck in their head. It's like not something they're happy about. It's like this
Yeah.
damn,
Yeah,
this
but at the
dumb
same
TikTok song
time,
stuck in my head.
At the same time, I
But
respect
that is
it.
like
I'm
what
like
I'm
these.
trying to do.
I'm like
yeah.
these stupid kids got this Island Boys song stuck in my head. I'm like, good for them.
Yeah.
You know what? Good for them.
Like kudos to that.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Like they did it. Whatever they were trying to do, they did it. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. There's kind of like an aspect of like if it sells, it won anyways, like kind of a thing. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't really
Yes,
matter
yeah.
what you think of it.
Yeah.
True. I'm not endorsing the Island Boys though.
No, no. But
Clear
we were talking
unendorsement.
about like music that brings you back to certain times, and like yeah, that's like I don't know like those feelings when something just embedded in your mind. I have plenty of those. Like so
Yeah.
many. I specifically remember listening to "Dazed and Confused" by Led Zeppelin while reading The Crucible. So it was like talking about witches and stuff, and I was like, oh man, I was like freaking out in like the like parts where it's like boom, 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 and I was like, I'm in the witch trials right now. This is like what's happening.
Crazy. Yeah.
And I know that sounds ridiculous, but like there's like that's just ingrained in my mind.
There is something
And-
like beautiful about that, honestly. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like a weird way. You know what I mean?
And I feel like as an artist, you might not always be trying to do that. Nowadays, everyone's trying to do that. But it's almost like when, like you said, it comes out. It's not a thing you wrote for that reason. It just came out, and now it's sticking in someone's mind. That's like
right, for
so
sure.
organic and so perfect.
I think for me, it's like, to me at least, I don't know, I don't speak for everyone, but I think like the most genuine thing is like when the intention is kind of attached to that, where it's like I'm having like I want this to be like the song on the album that people remember, or I want this to be like the line that like stays in someone's head and that they like think through a million times, so they're
Yeah.
like falling asleep or whatever. And it like makes them like think about something or whatever, and
Yeah.
that's kind of like what your artistic.
Because I
intention
think
is,
I think like as an artist, probably when you have one of those lines, you kind of know it off the bat.
yeah,
You're like, this
no,
is gonna
it-
stick.
It definitely
Yeah.
does. It's the type of thing where it's like you're sitting down. For me, it's weird because like I'm the type of person that a lot of times when I'm like writing music, it's not always like I don't always just like sit down and just write things out. It's kind of like a line might come to me when I'm on the subway or something, or I'm
Right.
like walking around.
Just one
But
like
certain
line about one
things-
specific thing, and then you
Yeah,
just
so
build off of
one line is
Yeah.
just like this is a winner. Like
Right.
build off that. Yeah.
Right. Love it.
That is cool.
Do you have any shows coming up?
I've had a lot recently. Honestly, yeah.
You're always
Yeah,
performing.
no,
I feel
for real,
like.
yeah, for
Can
sure.
we expect
People hit it.
anything in the new year?
Yeah, so with this album, you can actually expect a music video.
Okay.
So there have been a couple of music videos that have been already out with the project.
Yeah.
But one, I guess I'll just give away a little.
Let's go.
Oh yeah,
Let's
give
go.
us some titles.
Give us all the details.
It's for the song with Tayshawn, actually.
Yes.
It's for In My Solitude, which is like...
With that's the one that Amanda Shea speaks
it is,
on,
yeah,
too.
yeah, for sure. What's cool about this music video, I don't want to give too much away about it because I want it to be kind of a big thing when it comes out, but it's kind of something we spent a whole year working on it, and it's like kind of includes things from like all 4 seasons of like a kind of a year in Boston.
I love it.
Does it include a shot of you standing in the exact same spot at a certain point during the seasons?
It should have on it.
Damn it! Should have let Owen direct it.
But yeah.
If you need a video director, I have 0 experience, and I would love to do it.
But yeah, that, and then also like as I mentioned, I've been like really like trying to like work with just as many people as I can, and like something that I've been like fortunate enough about is that like with this album, I think like in like the music I've released, it's kind of been able to like get my name out in like kind of a way where it's like working with these people like I'm able to connect with like fans of them too, and they're able to connect with people like listen to me and stuff. That's like the most beautiful thing about it to me, honestly.
Yeah.
And so there've been a lot of people that I've like kind of met along this journey of the past couple of years that I'm like doing different projects with too.
Awesome.
And so I'm really like trying like this next kind of chapter of my like kind of like career or whatever. I'm really kind of trying to continue to like kind of seek the balance between like doing my projects and like giving myself kind of enough that I kind of have like this brand and this image,
right,
while at the same time being able to get to work with people that inspire me in like whatever capacity is possible.
Love it.
Yeah, that's the journey. That sounds like you know what you want. That's important.
Absolutely. And
It's
like I said,
definitely,
you've put yourself at a young age in a position to call shots. Like,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of
Jesus, crazy, yeah.
It's true though. I mean, you kind of like with the whole album, you orchestrated the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah.
it's impressive. You have like obviously a lot of leadership qualities.
Something
as
that
well
I'm
as your
big
music
on.
ability.
Yeah, something that I'm big on, like in working with different artists, is like kind of like oh, I recognize this artist, but it's like kind of in like a setting I haven't heard them before or whatever. And I think it like kind of takes like me and them like kind of together. It takes a lot of trust, but it takes like kind of like everyone collectively kind of stepping out of their comfort zone into something that's like we're kind of trying to do something new, like kind of like put like this unique combination of influences together in a way that like hadn't been done before by this particular person.
Get out of your comfort zone, people.
Honestly,
It's important.
yeah, no, for sure. I think that's
where
where
growth
everything comes
happens.
from. Yeah.
That's, I mean, to circle back to our beginning of this conversation, you talked about finding people in all these different areas. It wasn't like one group or one scene or show that got you into it. You went out there and you put yourself in these different scenarios.
I think that makes it like more like kind of powerful too to the listener, because it's like kind of it's not just like kind of like one like kind of thing captured. It's kind of like a whole like kind of like experience in a way.
Absolutely. And that's what life is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a very comprehensive thought process on all of it, which is
No,
awesome.
you're a deep thinker. I can tell.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm expecting a lot out of you in the next few years. High expectations.
Yeah. Did the Boston Music Awards nominate you for anything?
I've worked with a bunch of people that have been. I didn't get anything.
Reverse shout out the Boston Music Awards.
Fuck the Boston. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It's this week.
It's
though,
all
isn't
love.
It?
It's all
Is
love.
it?
I think it's like
Wait.
Wednesday or something. Yeah.
Oh my God! Wait, the nominees were announced like exactly 1 month ago. So
It's usually mid.
Yeah, no, I remember it was the same day as my album preview concert. Like,
They usually do the
earlier
nominees
that
in
day.
like September. They did it.
Yeah,
late
they
this
did
year.
later this year for some reason.
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say it seems fast to have the nominees come out and then like have the winners, but
But it's
I don't run
usually-
the Boston Music Awards, and
No.
I wouldn't do it differently. I wouldn't do anything different at all.
If we did run it, we would have been nominated. You know.
I
But shout out to
appreciate
all the
room for
podcasts
growth.
that got nominated, and all the musicians. Even though Shane Dillon got snubbed,
Yeah,
that album should have been on
and
there.
a couple awesome podcasts.
Actually, the
it
album-
might
got
have come out a little late.
The
honestly.
album was late. Next year, the album will be on there.
snubbed. It will be, and we're
It
just
should be.
bitter old men who will be nothing next year. And
We'll complain about the Boston Music Awards until they nominate us.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, it works for some people.
It does.
That's so we're gonna keep doing it.
It does. No, shout out to everyone that got nominated, though.
Yeah,
Sure,
it's honestly just a
yeah.
fun game at this point to pretend like we hate them.
Yeah, no, we don't actually hate them, and we love all the artists that got
Yeah,
nominated.
No,
we're
for
fans.
sure.
We're fans.
Because
of
a bunch
all
of people
them.
that have like come with y'all have obviously. Like,
Absolutely,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
We talk all the time. To this day, I think our last podcast we talked about the 2019 Boston Music Awards show. Like we
Yeah.
went and it was so fun. We
Yeah.
I learned of people I didn't know about before, and
That's fire.
just it was awesome. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a great time.
No, the performances are always phenomenal. Nothing against the Boston Music Awards
And-
at all.
Not saying it because you're here. You definitely will be on that stage in the next year or two, whenever. It
I mean,
happens.
you look at
yeah.
the people who are on your album. Like a lot of them have been nominated
Yeah.
before. So
For sure. Yeah,
why not?
yeah,
You're in that.
definitely,
You're in that circle now. You're
Absolutely.
in the fraternity.
Yeah, it is a fraternity. What's the hazing like, bro?
That's a good way to put it. I guess
Yeah.
I'll find out.
You haven't been hazed yet? Damn. Don't tell anybody. But yeah, honestly, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having
Are
me.
there any in particular, like, do you have social medias that you want to plug? Your Shane Dillon everywhere?
Yeah,
or-
you can find me on Instagram, Shane Dillon. It's like Shane Dillon with an X at the end, like ShaneDyLXN. You can find me there, and then you can find all my music with the album just released. It's out everywhere. A Star or a Lonely Dreamer. It's out on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, even SoundCloud, wherever you listen to music.
Even SoundCloud.
Even SoundCloud. Yeah, that old relic. But awesome. So
Love
yeah, looking forward to it. We're gonna see more in 2022, music videos and
So,
everything.
Yeah, for sure. Different collaborations, different people. Maybe even some new music.
Love it.
Definitely some new
I have a
music.
feeling you're not going anywhere.
Yes.
Just based on your
Not
work
yet, not
ethic
yet.
and everything you've been
Yeah.
doing, you're here to stay. So we'll be seeing you again. We'll be seeing you around.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah.
you coming on,
Of
man.
course.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Shane Dillon, ladies and gentlemen.
That's a wrap.